This is not by our line of interiors is predominantly site related. So sites, there is no work happening. Absolutely. There are no exceptions. So there's no creativity or anything that site pe hum log kaam karwa sakte hain and we can start off. So back end, generally there's a lot of back end work happening. Unlike the foreigners and the Goras, we have a habit of not having to the T paperwork, which the foreigners have a very good tendency to. So that is the core strengths that we'll be talking on today. That is how we'll elaborate how we personally have signed up about 3 to 4 sites. It's been exactly a month since the lockdown has happened. So how we have personally signed up 3 to 4 sites. And it's not like by magic or anything, but there were incentives offered to people, to clients, and how the work from home example has worked really. So that is what we are going to emphasize on. That is what we are going to talk about today. Here, designing an interior is a very site-based work. It's all about site construction activities. There's no back-end. There is back-end work, but it's not just desktop services and IT-related kind that you can work from. Still, in these hard times, we somehow, in exactly a month, it's been a month since the lockdown started, we managed to sign up 3 sites. Signing up these 3 sites were not something fluke out of the blue or a stroke of luck. But we managed doing it by offering some incentives to the clients, offering some kind of benefits, because we were very clear and determined that we do not wish to retrench people. We do not wish to still have a 50% pay cut or, unpaid leave or anything such, because these are the people who help you actually move forward and work in the future. So the last option would be to do that. So the only way out was to get creative, add some value to the work which we're doing, and sign up whatever comes with. So that is the topic of discussion which we'll be starting with today.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Surbhi Jindal from Dalighthub Mumbai. I'm called to this series of the new series that we launched called the Design Dialogue. Before we start, I request all participants to be on mute mode and also on the video off mode. So you can click on the microphone icon on the lower left side of your screen to ensure that it is muted. And at the end of the interview, you can also unmute the icon and ask your questions directly. We'll be recording this webinar for on demand and we'll share this on our channels. So as we all know, construction and real estate are badly hit due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our small effort to understand from the celebrated designers, architects, and influencers in the industry about not only what's the impact on these sectors, but also really know how will the industry revive back post the lockdown. Okay, so how will it also change our ways of working and what synergies we can have with different stakeholders from the industry? So as in Mahesh's word, creativity is contagious, and that holds for him, for our speaker today, holds very true for our speaker today, the celebrated designer Mahesh Punjabi, owner of Mahesh Punjabi and Associates, with offices in India and UAE. We are very pleased to have Mahesh today with us for this interactive live webinar. His first assignment as an intern at Tina Anil Ambani's house in Mumbai was followed by a string of several dynamic residences and uber cool projects. He finished for the rich and famous, and ever since then there was no looking back for him. The team at Mahesh Punjabi and Associates has worked on elaborately designed bespoke high-end residences across UAE, Africa, and India. His studio, based out of Bandra in Mumbai, Mahesh's expertise lies in dishing out ultra-luxury projects and amenities like designer swimming pools, clubhouses, discotheques, and everything that makes for a grand living. be it residential, commercial, hospitality, or even landscapes. So we have today the winner of the Smart Living Awards 2019 for the best integration of technology and automation. Thank you, Mahesh, very much for joining us today for the live webcast. Yes, over to you, Mahesh, please.
Thank you, Surbhi. Lovely introduction. Welcome, friends. Welcome, everybody, to the webinar. And apologies for the delay that we started. Today's webinar is we are exactly about a month today since the lockdown has started. And you all wonderful hosts all invitees are from the design field, from other fields also, and a lot of people who personally known to me very well. Interior design being a site job. So it's not that we have something out of the box over here. It's a side job, just like everybody did not want labor movement, transport movement a month back, everything shut down. Same way our business also shut down. But where we were really coming from is, do we really want to retrench people? Do we really want to go for pay cuts? Do we really want to pay 50%, 70% salary pay cuts, or request our colleagues and our team to say, take unpaid leave? So what happened in this process was, we were having a few talks in the inquiries, which were just before the lockdown. So we started taking it on from there. Staff, just before the lockdown, fortunately, there was a little bit of movement. So the staff and the team were given computers to take home, because obviously the office PCs are totally different compared to the home PCs. So they took the office computers home. Obviously, they have logistic support, logistical challenges. Some of them are staying at Panvel, New Bombay. So distance from Churchgate, the office to Panvel, New Bombay is quite a bit. So the last few days before the lockdown, we were only supporting the staff for logistics. We were not worried about closure of jobs, because we didn't expect that 3 days mein kuch kaam hone wala. We'll be having a webinar, a combination of Hindi and English. I hope that is okay with everybody. So
Yes,
we supported everybody to take the computers home. The computers went home. Now these are high-end machines which can support AutoCAD. They have licensed software. Not necessarily every PC at home has the same support. In addition, our backend team supported the computers, the work from home computers, to bring them to the office level. Once the computers had gone there, they had to be installed. Some software snacks were there, Wi-Fi, interactivity, cloud-based data had to be accessed to the office. All this had to be done really fast in the Thursday, Friday, Saturday before the lockdown, before Modi ji came on TV on Sunday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, anyways, people were doing about half day's work. But this somehow we paid attention to, and everybody was well stocked, just like we were stocking vegetables, supplies, and fruits. So we saw to it that people had stocked up well on computers, data, and access to the office servers, which is very important. After that, we had 2-3 clients who were just skimming the surface. These people were skimming the surface, including Bonnie Kapoor. We just had a casual Sunday meeting, a coffee with him, and another client had just mentioned that we might want to do it. How do we tap the client? In that case, we started with Bonnie Kapoor's plate. Everybody's on WhatsApp, everybody's on chats, everybody's been handling social media. Far above average time is spent on that compared to this. Aziz, can you share the Bonnie Kapoor plate, please? So we started with Bonnie Kapoor. He asked for his residence images. Every client has a certain desire, flair, and passion which he wants you to translate. Not necessarily the designer does everything. So the designer has to translate what the client wants. So this, if you can see on your screen, is a plate which was made for Bonnie Kapoor. This is explaining the whole process, how it started. The client was told to take measurements of his house, the room sizes, which you can see in the top left corner. He was told to take measurements of his house, which is a fairly simple job. We had to make a video sketch, sent it to him. He took images of his house and sent it across. Then there was a chat. It took about 2 to 3 chats to get his tastes and preferences. This is happening, mind you, this is happening between the client, between my office, which is shut down, and my team who's positioned at home. So it is very important that everybody's on the same page. So one thing I forgot to mention was...
So Mahesh, can you please tell us what dates were these actually? What dates was this project started on, and as during the lockdown period itself? So how did you manage to work in the lockdown period itself, coordination?
So on the plate,
because
the
this
dates
was
are
very
mentioned.
collaborative working.
Sure, the dates are mentioned on the plates.
Yeah, so
I'll start with
can
the
you
first
please
date.
read them out? Can you please read them out?
Sure. So 20th March, the photo screenshots were exchanged. The sizes came from the client. Now the client, no matter what, generally doesn't really expect this. But in this lockdown, believe me, the clients are going out of their way to get their work done. They are not interested in sitting and mulling about the lockdown. If you show your proficiency and your efficiency, they will go that extra mile. So he sent us these sketches. He got the sketches. There were some lacunas, obviously. The beam heights and the beam depths were not done. So again, we had to explain. So that's why you're seeing 3 different sketches. These 3 sketches took 2 days to come, which an interior designer takes a survey or something. It happens in less than 1 hour. But there are challenges to work from home. But the sketches came through. So now we have the measurements. 20th March, we got this.
Yeah.
By 22nd, the measurements are in our hands. That took about 2 to 3 days. 21st onwards, the conversation started. Again, if you can zoom into the screen, the conversation started with the team and the client. I like this. I do not want this. This wall is dedicated to this. The wardrobes are too heavy. Just give me a light brush stroke, everything. Elevations were frozen. This took another 3 days. Now, these are just 1 or 2 hours of a video call, but the time process is taken 2 to 3 days. So it is not a normal working condition. Again, which I'll come to a point which I'll come to later is, this is only the first project which took so long. The next project after this happened in half the speed because we are not used to this kind of working. So the first time it took long, the second project happened in half the speed. Yes, Surbhi, you were saying something.
So do you feel interiors has got show? Like you mentioned, you were working from, all of your team was working from home during this period. And as we can see in the plate as well, 3 sketches were made a couple of hours time. So so what do you feel? Is work from home a culture in interior design field? Is it possible going ahead?
See, this project, it was 1 room, and the moment we delivered it to the client, immediately he said, Mahesh, take the other room also. So this just shows that, and I'm not a technology geek. I'm not at all a technology geek. So it was my team who was totally hands-on with the work also and interaction. So the fact that within 7 days, when we completed the first project, the client requested the second room also to be taken on, I think it's a success. I think the numbers and the results should talk about the success rather than me saying whether it was successful or not. And after this, we signed up 1 more project. Generally, whatever the fees happens, in this case, we had to pay the bills, we have to pay the team, we have to pay the people working from home. So the team started interacting with the clients directly. Generally, the clients waited for my calls, my meetings. Here, the team is going forward, handling Zoom calls with the client. The clients are taking 5 times longer for decision making, which would otherwise be the case in a face-to-face. But that's perfectly all right. They are getting the satisfaction of complete hand-holding. Their absolute passion is coming through. Please, can you share the Manan plate, please? The next client plate I'll share with you. The client handheld us for average, I think each one of you have done 3D views or sketches for the client. 2 or 3 sketches, generally the project is ready. The plate which we are now sharing, the client gave us back and forth inputs on the plate, and we had about 13 alterations in his design perspective, but we did not meet the client even once. This happened over Zoom calls, which means you're saving on infrastructure costs, you're saving on going to office rent, you're saving on a whole lot of things.
And a lot of time, a lot of travel time as well.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
So Aziz, can you just browse through the PPT of Manan, which had 13 3D views. So client is totally, to bring the client to this level, he was even getting educated on what he's going to get. In short, once he signs up this, there you go. Keep switching, Aziz, the 13 views, slide 2, slide 3, slide 4. Each of these slides has small differences, if you see, because the client knew very specifically what he wanted. And the day this project starts off, there will be no looking back and we could be able to crack it down. So this is the kind of inputs and the leverage that we are giving it to clients. That is why one client led to another and another led to a third in the past 30-day period. So with this client, there were about 15 to 16 Zoom calls. And we made these about 13 or 14 slides. There are 14 slides, but they're with very, very minor alterations. And the day the site starts off, we have enough time, so we can keep the paperwork ready, everything ready. So the day it starts off, we can give them a defined timeline and take the work forward. This, in the bargain, is helping our team, keeping them busy, and obviously paying the bills for all the areas that we are running on right now. This was a completely new opening of work from home, which we did not think possible once upon a time, especially high-end interiors.
Right, absolutely.
See, these are not really budget, they're not really high-end, but these are all aspirations of the clients which are transformed into paper and put in reality, and we have received sign-offs.
So luxury interiors for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now the workers, once this opens.
Yeah, so my next question was that we also heard that once the lockdown opens, the sites that are ongoing will be completed in just 90 days of time. So what's your strategy for that? Because I think, you know, we are all aware of the migrant worker situation in the country. And so how will you manage to do that as you had mentioned earlier?
Okay, to answer this, I'm going to digress a bit. Aziz, can you share the Milan slide? The Italy-Milan slide. Italy and Milan, China and Dubai. These were hubs where the clients had aspirations to buy, shop, everything. So both these fairs are cancelled. From April, it was postponed to June. Even the lighting design fair, Surbhi, which you were going for, I believe in Germany.
The Frankfurt fair, the Frankfurt fair also got postponed actually. It's in the month of September, but let's see. I don't think so it's going to happen in the month of September as well.
So these fairs were a hub for buying materials. So from April, it got postponed to June, and from June now it's postponed to next year.
Yeah.
We still, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but we don't know what the situation will be next year.
Yeah.
These things, by the time the goods were shipped, the cost, everything takes a lot. The cost and the time, everything is involved. Obviously, in your case, the cost goes up too because the time, we are paid for time.
Absolutely.
The amount of time a professional gives is directly variable to the cost. Correct. Now, the workers over here need employment anyhow. This is the time of need right now. Okay, I have not given to the PM Relief Fund. I have not given charity and donations there. But how are we doing our bit over here? The workers, we have promised them these sites, these clients whom we are the ones who market Milan and China and Dubai. Instead of that, give these workers the works, bring it to a downsized cost in a project. In the bargain, more workers get work. And right now, once the lockdown opens, things smoothen out, clients will be in a hurry. They'll be pressed for time because they've had this vacuum. They've had this lacuna of a vacuum. So they'll be pressed for time. So if you give them a budget solution, which no client is looking at overspending right now in the current scenario, you give them a budget solution and eliminate this Milan, China, which is anyway struggling hand to mouth. That is the way to go about it. and your local population gets the work, which is so badly needed at this time. So 90 days plus budget. This is purely a benchmark for success to today's client who used to buy a chandelier worth X $1,000 once upon a time, is not interested in that. He will definitely settle for a cheaper option, at least for the next 2 years. So way to go is 90 days and low budgets, medium budgets, and quick turnaround time, just to generate local employment and get the ball rolling.
So you mean to say that for material selection, we should have an alternative in the Indian market itself instead of going to the fairs internationally?
We've always had one. It's just that we'll have to consider it deeper and more seriously now. We always had the options.
Yeah.
We were there. We have been exporting all over the world. You'll see made in India products in IKEA, in China, Vietnam, so many markets in China. You'll see made in India, and all the casting and the brass joineries and everything comes from UP and Delhi and the Gurgaon markets, the EPCH.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of exploring it deeper today and actually using it. It's been so often I've brought stuff from China only to land here and turn around the box and see it in the bottom it's made in India, which happens to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. But don't you think it will be, it's a lot of international exposure in terms of when you are attending a fair outside India, like for instance, the Milan fair, a lot of other countries also represent themselves there, and not just the Italian products, but there are people from across the world. So what's an alternative? Do you think that other countries will look India as a potential market for that matter?
See, next 6 months, India is the only potential market. This is my point of view. Once things open out, it's what happens. But right now, India is your whole thing. Even if we assume, let us hypothetically assume we have the lockdown opened on 3rd of May or 3rd of June.
Right.
Is any of us going to travel abroad? Or is traveling abroad going to be the same like it was 4 months back?
Not really at all. Yeah.
Are you really going to consider going out for a client, shopping abroad or traveling abroad or whatever, especially in Singapore? We had a site which we signed up on 15th of February in Singapore, and Singapore was leading the COVID at that time compared to the other countries in the world. It's been 2.5 months today, and Singapore has again unfortunately gone into its second innings, and we are not even going to get access to the Singapore trip. So I don't think that client is going to get any feedback or any foreign travel from us. That client had planned a Milan trip, a Singapore site visit, everything was scheduled. So things are going to change. The client wants her house done up. She wants to change everything done up. But this is the only way it's going to be done. And if you have the local sourcing and you can supply her, why not? Because you know better than him or her where to source from, what to get from where. Muradabad. Firozabad is a whole glass industry. Muradabad is a whole metal industry.
Yeah.
So I think next 6 months to 1 year, if you can really explore into Indian markets, you're the winner.
That's correct. If you talk about architectural practices like yours, so there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So what is your take and what is your advice for them to be successful in their businesses as a small firm or a mid-sized firm, and what should be their approach to get the best out of the current market scenario, because it's quite hardly impacted?
I'd like to share a plate for this. Can we have the agenda plate for the team agenda, please? Just share the plate of the agenda, please. Now, I'll go back a couple of months. We had a very typical systematic routine in office. We used to meet in the office. If you can just have a look at the plate which is shared on screen.
Yeah.
We had a very systematic approach. We used to meet in office, brainstorm ideas. If there was a site visit, the meeting was postponed, held later during the day or held next day accordingly. That was the team's accountability and their commitment towards the work. They still have the same thing, but how do you take the accountability? Because you're not meeting them. You're not physically face-to-face communicating, and your times are different of work. So we established this system which was just started since last month. If you can see, every team member is posting what he or she has been doing on a daily basis. So this is a typical agenda. For example, a certain team member is assigned the New Bombay site. So he or she is having progressive meetings with the client, the outcome, and everything, because there is a huge difference between a Zoom call, work from home, and face-to-face. At least this helps keep a tab of the team where you have a 7 or a 12 or a 14 persons team. You don't have the stress of who's done what. You can refer to the agenda, take a one-to-one call, Zoom meeting. The Zoom meeting is preset at a fixed time. No matter what happens, there is a certain time of the day, say 10:30 in the morning or 11 a.m. in the morning, the Zoom meeting happens, and the person again has the freedom to attend to his work anytime he wishes to or she wishes to, and spend time with the family. So I think architectural practice has evolved to a different level with Zoom meetings and this kind of a practice. Once your call is over in the morning, half an hour, 1 hour, or whatever, the next call is only when the answerability for the assigned agenda is happening. Whereas in the office, it used to happen whether the person is physically present or mentally present, there's no demarcation line. But here, in fact, the results are showing. The proficiency is bang across on the table. If the email has arrived to you, the deliverables have arrived, the screenshots of the drawings have arrived, the 3D has arrived, the work is done.
So the productivity is maximized that way.
Absolutely. And very, very easy to keep a tab, take back feedback, reports, submit reports. So we have a tier system also, in which we have 2 to 3 juniors who are helping out the senior designers, and then there's a team later who takes accountability of all the persons down the rung of the ladder. So this was all created now in the past 1 month. We did not have any such systems before that.
That's wonderful, Mahesh. So this is for the team who is working from home, right? The teams which are working from home or your office teams. But how do you, what do you suggest for the people who are working off-site? And what are the, so what's the kickstart for them, and what are the precautionary measures while the work is restarted on the sites post the lockdown? So my question to you is, will there be a new normal for that matter?
See, the interior design scope is going to be expanded to safety also. There will be security cameras. Aziz, can you share the sanitization booth spray, please? The plate which has a sanitization booth photograph. This is the sanitization booth. This is going to be an interior designer's scope and role, where to place this, how to secure the area to make it pilferage free. People should not be able to bypass, but every person should be able to walk through this. The security camera and the alarm system and the whole trespass, the pathway of design, everything is going to change. In addition, this booth has to look aesthetical and blend with the interiors also. This is the booth on the screen, which you can see right now.
Yeah.
So this is the booth. This kind of additions will be incorporated.
There will be all the public buildings and residential mixed-use developments. You suggest these kind of sanitization booths.
Absolutely.
So that's a part of design, basically.
It's going to be a part of design always.
Okay.
Just like air conditioning, fans, cross ventilation, natural light. People have started demanding, this is just going to be another one. That where are you going to place the booth? How are you going to place the booth? What about incoming, exit? Incoming ke time pe rahega ya exit ke time pe rahega? All these questions are going to come up to the interior designer, and the interior designer has to blend this with the aesthetics also. The booth can't look the way it's looking right now and just be placed at an entrance. Like the 5-star hotels have a metal detector in the entrance. The hotels were not designed, those grand entrances were not designed to have those metal detectors. But suddenly, after whatever happened in the Bombay attacks, the metal detectors were introduced. So they don't blend in with the look in the interior at all because they were an afterthought and they were added. So
Absolutely.
as the interior designers, our responsibility would be to blend in these kind of things depending on whatever the statutory demands are from the government into the interior spaces.
Right. So, what we understand is the design that will be changed completely. And how do you take the sustainability part of it as well?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question,
Yeah.
Surbhi?
So how do you take the sustainability part? So will they be more affordable? How for more people and we build less? So what would be the find out? What would be the agenda or strategy for the ahead?
I'll be very straight in this. If you are not going to come down with a leaner, tighter, affordable, and comprehensive package for the same clients today, you will be digging your grave. The spending sentiment is going to be very different in the next year or so. So, hypothetically speaking, even if your clients are producers or TV artists or movie Bollywood actors, there are going to be no movies in the theaters the way they were. The malls are not going to be crowded, super packed in the next 1 or 2 months that they were. There is going to be a shift in business that is going to affect every strata of the society. The market is going to move to more of online movies, online videos. Online videos and movies do not have the kind of remuneration that Bollywood and Hollywood have. So things are going to change. So presenting a leaner and yes, nobody's going to compromise on their lifestyle. Everybody has a lifestyle, but only if you go forward with a leaner model are you going to score the edge above the competitor.
And what do you say about the hospitality sector? I think that's again a very hard hit sector, and it was booming like anything. Like there were a lot of properties coming up by Marriott. So what do you suggest? What is your perspective on the hospitality sector? Because
there will be
going
a
ahead.
redesign. There will be a redesign. There will be meter distancings on the tables, the restaurants, the systems, the spaces will be. There will be a little bit of redesign. That's about it. Everything else would go smooth, I think. There is going to be a need to travel. There is going to be need for catering and hospitality.
Absolutely.
That's never going to die. But online and virtual is going to take, like you can see, even as we speak today, Mr. Mukesh Ambani did one of the best business deals. It's only connected to digital media and this. So I don't think there is any better direct message that how important the IT sector and going online and work from home and making your organization leaner is going to help. And technology is ever increasing and ever supporting to you. Please take advantage of it.
Correct. So there's a lot of app market and digital market, which is also booming in India.
I think it's already prevalent.
Yeah.
Hugely prevalent, and a lot of online companies, they don't even show the carpenter's face on site, except for the plaster of Paris and civil and plumbing and electrical works which have to be done on site. Other than that, you don't see any workers on site. They finish the wet works and they give you a certain date. The dry fit outs come and they are out of the site. So this is already happening. I think we should more emphasize on those models.
Absolutely. So, Mahesh, going forward, what's your take on the whole scenario, and what do you feel when it's going to be normal after how many months? Everything you feel that it's going to be a little on the track, especially when you see that there are a lot of projects that are on completely standstill or they're on hold.
When and how things will come back to normal is a question which I would suggest is let us start working on the paperwork. Let us start working on timelines, PERT charts, BOQs. These are all documents which the smaller segment projects were not very keen and in-depth with. I don't mean to generalize it, But generally residences and do-it-yourself residences were not very keen on POQs, per charts, schedules and everything. So the only way forward would be to encash on this time, get your paperwork in order, bring the designs, take a sign off, get the costs correct. So when it opens and starts off, you do not waste much time on execution. And you have your portfolios ready. And instead of 2 or 4 portfolios, you have 8 portfolios to cash in at this time. Yes, it's a personal choice, but I would suggest you can offer slight discounts, even if you have to go the extra mile. It is more important that you sustain your team today than stick to your price and stick to your guns. The team is what is going to deliver results. If not today, tomorrow, whenever things come back to normal, you will need this team to hands on board.
Absolutely. So, so that was from our side. I would now open the session for questionnaire. Because the chat box is not available currently. So what we will request the audience to raise their hand and we'll unmute their microphone and then they can ask the question directly from Mahesh.
Please go ahead. This is open Q&A.
Yes.
Hey Suraj, nice to see you on board. Welcome Suraj, Rakesh, Ronak, Chetan. Nice to see all of you guys. Afifa, thank you for coming on the call. Meanwhile, I'll be checking if I have any other plates to share.
Yeah, sure. We'll just get audience to raise the hand and ask the question.
Aziz, put the Meta plate on, please. 90 days wala. 90 days lockdown. Hi Hussain, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Welcome. This is another project which was fairly simplified for some reason. Somebody was trying to say something? Please go ahead. Huh? So this is another project which this design was intentionally simplified with basic materials, the requirements, everything, because all this process started exactly after the lockdown. So keeping the client's requirement and the specifications were not changed, but the super premium materials were brought down to premium materials and accordingly used in this plate. Timeline. We have guaranteed a timeline of 90 days to this client, keeping the budget in mind and the time which is right now the client which is losing out on time on this project. Again, the 90-day timeline is only possible with downsizing materials, keeping the project costing low accordingly. I don't think, Surbhi, anybody has any questions.
No, there are questions. Actually, we can see people raising their hands, but we are unable to unmute. So I'm just trying to unmute them. Yeah. So whosoever has got a question, can I request you to unmute and ask? I think I'm not able to recognize your full name. Can you please unmute yourselves and ask the question?
Yes, thank you. How do you see BOQ affecting when the lockdown open up? If you're making a BOQ, is there going to be any percentage changes in the BOQ? As a market, everyone is stacked down. So the costing is going to go high as per the compared BOQ.
Could you repeat the question again, please? I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
You made a BOQ right now for the client, right? And you have
Absolutely.
So now when the market opens up, do you think this BOQ is going to get affected due to the materials availability, costing, everything?
Yes, like I said, we are not using high-end and out-of-the-blue materials. We are actually intentionally downsizing the materials to basic materials. So if there is no supply like Italian materials or Italian PU paint and all that, we are completely replacing that with Indian laminates, Indian veneer finishes, local craftsmanship. That is the key to the accuracy of the BOQ. Otherwise, the BOQ will go haywire if we've written Italian products, Italian materials, which are not going to be available for quite some time now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the good session.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, H. Mufaddal Zaveri, can you please unmute your mic and ask the question?
Yes, thank you, Surbhi. Hi, Mahesh sir. Hope you're good.
Hi, Mufi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks a lot. So, as you just said that people would be more inclined towards using Indian material, but in case of European companies, brands which have their presence in India, they have their bases here. So, do you feel architects doing quality work will still try to reduce the costs by not using those brands and maybe going for some cheaper brands in terms to reduce the overall costing of the project in the near 4 to 5 months?
Mufaddal, I'll state an example for this. Suppose I'm a Blum user, hypothetically speaking. If I'm a client and I'm a Blum user, I am not going to give up using Blum, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to settle for a cheaper substitute than Blum. But yes, what I will do is, I will not take the servo drive, which is the top-end version, but I'll use the manual Blum soft close ones, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I am going to stick to Blum. I'm not going to drastically move my preferences away and overnight switch. This is not an apocalypse, but yes, I will be price sensitive. So I'll switch only from servo drive, which is totally automated, motorized and everything, to a more soft close channel. And the soft close customer is going to move from soft close to a tandem channel or something. So the downgrade, with the downsizing will be only in that segment.
Okay, got it. So it's mainly the functionality that might be compromised, not the quality and the brand.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mufi.
Hi all, this is
So
Surbhi.
any other
Can you all hear me?
they can raise the hand,
You're a
please.
little louder, you'll have to speak up, please.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sudesh. First of all, I would like to thank you for this session. It is very informative. Can you hear me now? Is that clear?
A little louder, can barely hear you, but yes, got you. Thank you, Satish. Please tell me.
Yes.
Oh, just give me a minute.
Just trying to say. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Wonderful,
better.
wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful.
Now, I am fairly new into lighting, and I'm trying to get a step into lighting. Now, a lot of people prefer lights from abroad. Now, how do you think that will be affected due to this lockdown? Yes, there are a lot of timeline issues. Most of the factories are not working, whether it be Italy, whether it be Europe, whether it be Germany. Most of the factories are not working. Now, when it comes to lighting, we getting the same kind of quality or light from an Indian brand is difficult. Do you think client will wait?
Satish, right?
Sudesh.
Satish, are you talking about task lighting or decorative?
I'm asking task lighting.
Now, task lighting, Satish, there is very limited ready stock, right?
Yes.
So even if you get a project, hypothetically, suppose something like Reliance Center, if you get, they're not going to wait. And you don't want to lose out on it because they've already lost precious time. So your next best option is to grab on the closest equivalent and move on. And they will have their quality team, they'll have their specs team who's going to guide you, whatever is closest to the international brand, which was intentionally going to be there, like Arcos or Delta or whatever was going to be there. So their quality controlling team will anyway be giving you the closest best Indian option. But I think if the client is time sensitive, which is going to be the case, you have to move on with the equivalent Indian brand. You would not have the choice to wait for it. Although Italy and Germany, once they open up, The factories are totally unmanned. They will hardly take any time to process your orders. But depending on your Indian customer, I think customer preference is the key. If you're delivering 90 days, 100 days, you do not have the luxury to wait for Italy or Germany, although the factories are totally unmanned and just one or two people run a 70, 80,000 square feet factory. So this is, I don't know if I've answered your question.
No, thank you. You have answered it, Mahesh. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Sudeep.
So I think, I believe, Mahesh, that decorative might have an impact, especially when you're talking about Italian, when you're talking about crystal or Murano glass for that matter, when people are looking specifically for a particular material. So that can have a major impact because these factories are closed and you never know when will they open, and the client actually wants to see the product before finalizing, especially in decoratives when you're talking about big chandeliers or big decorative stuff.
Again, that is a very, very niche and a very high-end product. So there, I don't think the client will mind waiting, and he's not going to compromise. And it doesn't declare the project as incomplete even if the delivery comes 30 days after the final product is ready. This is what I feel.
Right.
Thank you both.
Client will wait for the high-end decorative. I don't think he has too many choices also.
Yeah,
and
correct.
What
Because
as designers we could
selection
suggest
of
to the
choice
client,
comes less.
what we as designers could suggest to the client is put a replacement dummy light over there, which costs X amount. And the moment the original comes, which is 10X the price, remove this one out. Because if a client is affording the decorative, he definitely does not want the ceiling or the space to look bare. And equivalent substitutes, cheaper option, are 1/10 the price, which you can have a temporary makeshift and remove it and put the original as soon as you get the consignment.
I think that's a great suggestion to have a dummy product placed there, and once the things are on the track, client can actually go and have a look at the product to buy.
We have had lights instead of a 2 lakh, 3 lakh chandelier, which was going to take time to come from overseas. We have had a light as cheap as 7,000 to 15,000 hanging in the same boardroom for 2 months till the light arrived from overseas, and the client was extremely happy with that. He did not mind that.
That's a very good suggestion. I think I should practice this from now onward, in my practice at least. That's a really great suggestion, actually.
Because Preciosa and Austria and all these companies, even when they're operational, they have their lead time, They have a certain delivery.
They have their 4 weeks minimum lead time, yes.
Absolutely. Good question, Sadish.
Anybody? Yeah, I think we have some more participants here. So if any participant wants to really have any question or ask any question from Mahesh, they can unmute their mic and ask the question directly.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Hi.
This is Prachi here, CEO Skylark Automation. I would like to ask you one query, like after lockdown, what kind of strategies we need to design for our business? I'm into automation. So how we can survive our business in coming future?
Okay.
Can you please elaborate?
I had a few notes written down on this. I'll just...
Okay.
See, as far as the pandemic is concerned, we are better off than the rest of the world.
Okay.
That is one good thing. Plus, we have our sizable population and self-reliant economy. That means we do not have to wait for another economy to push our way. We are self-reliant. Our own population is so much that we can generate enough business and demand supply chain. So, countries which are less battered, they will really, the Western economies are going to look up to us. So we are the next best thing after China. China is not going to disappear. They are still far ahead as far as deliveries, costing, everything is concerned. Whether the Japan government is moving out of China and all, we definitely don't have those choices. If you're getting a product X at a certain price and China gives it to you X minus 20%, you will buy it from China, or your customer is going to make you buy from China. That is definitely the case. Other than that, the ticket size of the spending. Now your question, how is the business going to be after this? The ticket size of the spending, which I said, is going to go down. People will be spending on cheaper goods than on expensive goods. They might even delay spending for a while. That is a very crucial aspect to be considered in luxury home spending. Commercial spending and important projects might not get delayed, but residential interior spending definitely will be the same. Then there's something called loyalty shock. People will be less loyal to brands. This is contradictory to what I told Muqaddal before this. As other aspects will be taken over, people will switch brands faster or switch specifications faster because of these kind of things. So there will be a rundown on something having a seal of safety, or online clothes which are not tried. This is just an example which I believe. You might not want to go to a boutique and try clothes. You might go buy online bag clothes which are sealed and gives you a guarantee that they are not signed, tried or by anybody. So this kind of stuff will have more loyalty compared to what it was before. Vendors, customers, employers, it's all a chain reaction. Back to back, you have to enroll each and every person, that the whole chain reaction is slow. Like there have been labor who's been calling for payments. They have said, if you do not give payments, I am not in a position to hold back the workforce. Obviously, you are not going to manage all of it, but to whatever extent you can enroll the client for the payment, it would be nice, because these labors, the day the lockdown opens, you'll have an upper hand in getting them back. But again, very little is in your hands. It's not a, it's a huge problem since liquidity is at an all-time low. Digitization, technology, if you invest, is good. Best of the team definitely need to work hands-on with you, and work from home, definitely downsize the office. If this has been such a good training ground for not having to work from a high-end office or infrastructure. International companies have been doing Skype and Zoom calls for ages now. We are suddenly forced into it, and we are getting on handy with this. So that is definitely the way forward. Don't have to have a fancy office, fancy luxury cars. There was a time where you say there's a certain image to be projected. All that is out of the window. It's only deliveries and your actual net worth, worth your salt, what you can. So there will be winners and losers. We will have to reorient our strategies. And this is what I can broadly assume on the future. What actually happens is once the tire meets the road, we'll know. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
It was a general answer, but I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, Prashant, would you like to answer a question from Mahesh?
No, I think Mahesh, thank you very much. It's been very informative session, and whatever question I was just gazing through, I've actually got a lot of answers, and thank you very much. Actually, it's blessing in disguise, I would say, for all interior designers and architects.
Thank you, Prashant. Pleasure having you on board. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant.
I think we can end the session. Thank you, everybody. I think 1 hour is up. If there's anything more, you can always email and be in touch.
Yes.
Thanks for a wonderful
Mahesh. Thank
session.
you so much. Thank you, Mahesh, for coming, for taking out time from your busy schedule. I know we can see that we already can see that you and your team are very busy, and I know you have been on this call for an hour, and you're focusing on slides as well. So so that it's really good to have you today, and we still have registrations coming up. That's a very good news. So I think we can have another session maybe in a week's time, for that matter, for rest of the audience who was not able to join today.
Thank you, Surbhi. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mahesh, sir.
The parting message: stay home, stay here, stay safe, spend time with the
Thank you so
family.
much.
Thank you to all.
Good luck,
Thank
good
you.
wishes, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay enlightened. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mahesh, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Surbhi. Wonderful session. Yeah? Very, very